Good evening, folks. My name is Chi Baker. I am the school owner and the chief instructor for Street Tactical Integrations here in Portland, Oregon. I'm also the director of the Dacascos Tactical Systems. This video, I'm going to talk a little bit about kind of the history of Kajukembo and kind of the inception of Dacascos Tactical Systems, or DTS, and kind of have you kind of understand some of the history around it. There'll be other videos that talk more in detail about different components of DTS, but this is kind of the overview, the historical overview of it. So, Kajukembo was born or created in the mid 1940s out of the Palama settlement in Honolulu, so the island of Oahu. In the mid 1940s, there's a lot of gang activity, there's a lot of violence. That area in particular was a particularly dangerous area to grow up in, to be in. And because of that, 5 martial artists got together and decided that they need to create a system to protect themselves and protect their friends and protect kind of their neighbors. So kind of protect against the violence, mostly of criminals, but could just be neighborhood bullies. The 5 kind of creators, the head or the founder has been credited to Adriano Emperado. Also joining him was James Hulk, so that's Holck. There's Peter Chu, Frank Ordonez, and Clarence Chang. So Adriano Emperado was kind of given the title of the head of the program. What they did was they took all their martial arts skills, all their training, and kind of talked about them, discussed them, and kind of brought them together. And what they decided was that the skill sets that were going to be a part of the original Kajukembo system would be ones that worked consistently effective against street fights. So this was tested, right? This is not just kind of a martial art that was created out of nothing. It was, hey, we know these skill sets, let's test them out. Let's figure out what actually works when we're facing a physical threat. So when we're in a fight, when we're in an altercation, what actually works and consistently, not just kind of a one-hit wonder, but something that consistently works. So that I think is important and gives Kajukembo a lot of validity as a true street fighting art and as a real art for self-protection. And so it was born on the streets, created the streets, found on the streets, street tested. Kajukembo. What is Kajukembo? Kajukembo is, again, created from a conglomeration of different martial arts. So Ka, karate, so Japanese karate and Korean karate. Ju is Japanese judo and jujitsu. Jujitsu is more of a ground grappling versus judo is more of a standing grappling. Ken is originated in China, so Kempo, and then it was evolved in Japan. So it's founding in kind of the Chinese martial arts as well as the Japanese kind of martial arts. And then Bo is for Western boxing and Chinese boxing. So Kajukembo. So it's basically a whole slew of arts that came together. There's some other martial arts that were thrown in there, some China, some Arnis, so some Filipino fighting arts. So they trained more arts than just that, but those were kind of the biggies. And they created what has been credited to as the first mixed martial art. So there's other martial arts that have kind of an empty hand game, a weapons game, and maybe some grappling in it. But this was the first system that actually took other systems, so different systems, and put them together. So taking various arts and squashing together into one complete system. And that's important to know in terms of kind of how Kajukembo was created and then how DTS evolved out of that. So fast forwarding DTS, Dacascos Tactical Systems. So out of Kajukembo, there's 4 styles. The first one was Emperado, or the original. And then you have Tumpai. Tumpai brought in some of the Tai Chi arts and some of the internal arts. And then Chuang Fa, which started to add a little bit more of kind of the Kung Fu, the Chinese Kung Fu arts. And then Wun Hap Kuen Do, which furthered some of the Chinese arts and brought in also, I think, more of the weaponry, so more of the kind of the stick and the knife fighting elements. So we've got Emperado, Tumpai, Chuang Fa, and Wun Hap Kuen Do. And again, these are systems that started to kind of progress, pull in more different facets of different arts that they felt were beneficial to kind of strengthen the original art. Not saying one's better than the other, it's just they've got different flavors. Dacascos, so Grandmaster Dacascos was one of the attributors, kind of did a lot of contributions to the development of Tumpai, Chuang Fa, and then he is the Sijo and the head of Wun Hap Kuen Do. He started to think of the conception of DTS, he says, back in the 1970s, and then it wasn't really until the 2000s where it really started to kind of take form. And what happened was one of his students, Sifu Kevin Jackson, asked Sifu Al, hey, how much of our systems are actually combat effective? That really when the shit goes down, that this stuff actually works. And I won't kind of tell you the percentage, but what it broke it down to is that Kajukembo, a martial art, had some art in it and some martial. And what we wanted to do was pull out the martial and leave the art behind. Not that the art isn't helpful, it's not, they're effective. A lot of times they've got more extraneous movement. They're not kind of as precise or kind of precision oriented. And so the project was, let's pull out what is actually combat street effective, that really kind of does the job, right? Which is really what Kajukembo started as, right? It started as like, what is street effective? But we know what street effective sometimes might be inefficient or might take longer than necessary. So the idea was like, let's take out some of the stuff that seems to take too long, that maybe seems extraneous, pull that out and condense it, right? From that also, it was, are there any other arts that might be a benefit to enhance the curriculum? So elements of Jeet Kune Do. We know Jeet Kune Do is one of the contributors to things like Krav Maga. The more Kali, so we know that the Filipino fighting style of Kali is something that is trained all over the world in military, but particularly special operators. So kind of the more advanced levels or highly specialized folks. And Tai Chi and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, which is kind of major contributors for the Russian combat system or military system of Sistema, right? So pulled some of that stuff out, as well as some other arts. Said, all right, let's, the main base is Kajukembo, Wun Hap Kuen Do, and then we're going to add some more flavorings, some more spices, some more elements from these other systems that are also highly effective, that kind of are already in the system, to be honest with you. But it was just kind of looking and reevaluating some stuff. And what happened was Sifu Kevin and I basically beat the crap out of each other, again, to test what is actually effective. Does this actually shut you down? Does in the flurry of fight, the flurry of adrenaline rush, when you're pumped up, when you've got kind of chaos going and emotions flying everywhere, do these skill sets, methods actually work? And some worked and some didn't. What didn't work, we tossed. What did work, we said, great, okay? And like they did before, we tested this stuff over and over again. It was a very fun 2 years of my life, and I would often come home bleeding. Definitely would have bruises or get bruises pretty quickly, And it was just kind of an interesting time period. And I am grateful for that opportunity. And so out of that, we created an outline of skill sets. This is what is going to be a part of the DTS program. Since then, I was handed off the program, and from that outline, what I did was create a curriculum. So what I did was create a year-long curriculum, so 52 weeks program of extrapolating all these techniques and saying, all right, what's the bare bones effectiveness that we need to have as a part of a full self-protection system? And it was it continues to be developed and enhanced. The fundamental core program kind of stands on its own. It has kind of what I would consider a buffet of all the essential skills. And then there's several modules that are after the fundamental core program when people want to kind of specialize in a certain area. And a lot of it is more geared towards police, military and security, private security. There's in the fundamental program, there's no firearm training. In the advanced modules, we have modules that work on drawing, on firing while on the move. We look at weapons retention, weapons transitions, some tactical standing grappling applications, some enhanced groundwork, some stuff on trauma management and healing. There's firearm disarms, both short and long guns, and a couple other modules. And so those are the advanced modules, but the fundamental has kind of the base of all those. And it really helps, again, the student become highly proficient in self-protection. And as I explained in some of the other videos, the reason for it, the idea of this was that police and military particularly do not have a lot of time to train before they have to do their job, to be professionals, to be deployed, to go be stationed, to go work the streets if you're a police officer, to serve and protect private citizens if you're security. The training amount of time of training that those folks have is fairly it's little. It's a short duration versus most martial arts systems, right? That it requires kind of a minimum of 5 years, usually moves into 10 years until you get your black belt. And at your black belt, sometimes they say that's the beginning of your actual learning. That's when you really start to learn to fight. So the first part of your training is really developing skill sets. And then the second part after you get black belt is really how to adapt and use those in a fighting scenario, self-protection scenario. Most people don't have that length of time if they're gonna work as professionals and have to serve and protect and be in life-threatening and highly hazardous situations. They need to learn in a very short duration. And so that's what the Dacascos tactical systems is really about. That's what the program is about, is taking something that traditionally took this long, condense it into the core essentials, and for it to only take this long. As well as there's many citizens who simply don't want to spend 5-10 years in a dojo training. They want to learn to protect themselves as fast as possible. And to be honest with you, after day one, you learn enough skills to manage an attack. So this system is more scenario-based than drill-based. We do drills, but it's really, let's learn some skills, learn some concepts, and then have standard, typical attack scenarios and how to use what you just trained, what you just learned in an attack scenario. So it's very scenario skill oriented, very scenario skill based. And the idea is to get people fast and up to speed to protect themselves. And a lot of people find that actually more exciting. Instead of like spending hours and hours doing different drills, right? Doing all the things that you might be doing. Those are great, you know, drilling those over and over and over and over and over. But a lot of times they get old, they get tiring, and you don't really know what to do with them. The idea here is that, you know, day one, you're learning 2 to 3 strikes. You're learning how to use it in a flow drill, and then you're learning how to use it in a scenario. So very user-friendly, very street-oriented, very fast-paced. So this is for people who want to learn fast, right? So it's people who are willing to do the work, who are willing to listen in class, willing to train during the week before we pick up new skills. So every week is new skills. Every week is new skills so that you can learn proficiently, learning and, you know, expedite that learning curve. And it really demands people to kind of be on top of their game, which for a lot of people is exciting too. It's certainly not a boring program. You will never be bored in this. It's for people who are just excited to learn, really have kind of that urgency of self-protection, whether you're looking to go into the professional field, or maybe you live in a city like myself, Portland, Oregon, that is hazardous. So we're kind of moderate to high these days. We have a high level of homeless, a high level of mentally ill, and a high level of drug addiction. And because of that, I can walk out my door and see people who are stumbling around, mumbling themselves, or have kind of a violent temper, and are actually truly threatening. And many of us have that, whether it's in our neighborhood, whether it's getting from our house to work, or from, you know, dark hours. Right now it's dark early, from work back to home, whether you're trying to get to your car, whether you're getting to the bus, whether you're walking back and from, is that these are hazardous situations. Some people, their neighborhoods are hazardous. Some people, their cities are hazardous. Some people, their work environments are hazardous. Some people, their household is hazardous. They may be in very threatening, physical threatening, emotionally threatening places where they need to learn this yesterday. So the idea of this program is that it's going to build you up fast and really effectively. Okay, so again, a little bit of history of the Dacascos Tactical Systems DTS, some of the components that are within it. Appreciate your time and listening to this video. I will be sending off more videos of kind of more details about different aspects of the program. Please feel free to contact me. Street Tactical Integrations, I've got a Facebook page. Obviously, you're on the YouTube channel. You can contact me through those. And my school is in Portland, Oregon, so you can look me up. All right, guys, thank you so much for your time. As always, serve and protect your community. Take care of yourself.